Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to talk about Arbor Adventures, my Dungeons & Dragons Forgotten Realms campaign that uses the Crown and Skull rule set from Runehammer Games, which is made by Hankard Farinale. It's a phenomenal rule set. It's just so elegant. It's kind of Dungeons & Dragons with a turbo engine. It's just much faster narratively. Really fantastic. So today we're going to continue to talk about session 2, and let's get into what happened in session 2. So what has already happened is the empath assassin has come to Phandalin seeking his brother. His brother has gone missing, right? And the empath assassin arrives. He encounters a woodcutter in the Neverwinter Woods. They have kind of a close call where they almost attack each other. The reason why they almost attack each other is the reason why they almost attack each other is they come across each other in the night, right? Then he actually progresses to Phandalin itself. He goes to Barthen's Provisions, which is kind of the general store there. He talks to them, and then he goes to the Stonehill Inn, and he begins his investigation for his brother. And I'm sorry, he also meets at the Shrine of Luck, he also meets a Dragonborn named Grax, who actually, who joins his quest to find his brother. And all the empath assassin promises him is opportunity. And I think what Grax takes away from that is the chance for treasure, right? And so at this point, the empath assassin needs to begin his investigation to find his brother. He splits up with Grax, with Dragonborn Grax, who goes off and begins to, ask about an elf who looks exactly like the empath assassin, right? Or looks very similar to them. They're brothers, they're not twins, right? But especially elves, they're they live so long. So, describing an elf. Also, in this area, there aren't a ton of elves. So, an elf is going to stand out, which means that the investigation is going to be a little easier. So at this point, the empath assassin goes to the Stonehill Inn. He begins to talk, and he talks to some woodcutters, and he drops Sargon's name, the woodcutter that he had almost killed in the middle of the night that he encountered in Neverwinter Forest. They're like, oh, Sargon. Sargon is a well-loved woodcutter. The woodcutters tell him, yes, there was an elf that looked similar to you here a few days ago. Those woodcutters then bring him to Demeth, who is the woodcutter leader. And Demeth gets reports from every woodcutter when they go in and out of the forest, right? And so basically, he actually knows that that empath assassin's brother is here in Phandalin. He's been here for about 4 days, but he's with the dwarves. But then Demeth warns the empath assassin. He says, listen, you now know where your brother is, but you can't go find your brother. And the reason why is he's spending time with the dwarves. And I can tell you right now, right, the woodcutters and the dwarves are about to go to war. So for a long time, the dwarves have bought wood for literally well over a century. The woodcutters have bought wood for their mines that are close to Phandalin, right? And they use them to buttress the tunnels, right? But this new dwarf that they have has found a way to make arches, right? And that means they can buttress the tunnels without any wood from the woodcutters. But this is causing a major problem with the woodcutters. They have a century of a steady flow of income coming in that has now been completely disrupted, right? And Demeth, and this has caused anxiety and quite a bit of verbal back and forth between the dwarves and the woodcutters. And Demeth is like, I can tell you right now, the dwarves are about to get attacked by the woodcutters, right? So he doesn't give any details on it. And then immediately, as soon as Empath Assassin has an ability to ask a question about this, he's interrupted, right? And he's interrupted by a small child, one of the Woodcutter's children, a little girl, runs up to Demeth and says, "Town hall, the town master's hall." So this is the seat of government within Phandalin. This is where Harbin Wester, the mayor of Phandalin, works, but it's not his home, right? And she's like, there's an adventurer there, and they are clearly staking out the covered wagon that's coming into the town, right? Now, all this child had to do was run there and tell Demeth, and that activates Demeth. And Demeth is like, okay, he's like, listen, elf stranger, right? Or actually, listen, elf friend, because they trust him at this point. He's met with Sargon. He's dealt very well with Demeth. They trust him, right? And so there's no reason for the Woodcutters not to trust Empath Assassin, because they don't have any goals that are countercross, right? Like, all their goals are none of their goals run against each other, right? At this point. So basically Demeth is like, hey, elf, stay here. We're going to go handle this. There's a covered wagon that's bringing something special for the Woodcutters in, and we got to go handle this because apparently an adventurer is staking it out, and we might lose something we want, right? Then Woodcutter leader Demeth takes Woodcutter Ord and 2 unnamed Woodcutters with him, and they run to Town Master Hall, right? And by the way, if you have the Essentials kit, you will find this exact map in that Essentials kit, and you can see all of Phandalin. This is Forgotten Realms Phandalin, and we are running default Forgotten Realms, right? Right now, Dungeons and Dragons Phandalin, right? So, and before I forget, I forgot to say this in the last video. In the link below, you'll see a link to notes, and you could see literally the exact notes that we use for the campaign, and you can see our maps that we use for the campaign, and you can see notes for session 1 and session 2. It's pretty cool. Give it a check out, and if you've listened to these recaps, basically you'll get a sense of where we're heading, which I think is, and it helps me to have this record, right? And also I want to thank you guys for letting me share this with you, because this helps me understand the narrative we're in, to know the flow, and so that when it's time for me to dungeon master, it's in my head, I know it, I'm familiar with all the characters, and it's very helpful to me. And just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's listening to these recaps. All right, so at this point, Demeth runs off, okay, and and if you look in the notes, you'll see that actually you don't need to look in the notes. I'll make sure it's all right here in the audio, but the notes are beneficial to look at if you're enjoying this, and you just want to kind of have a concept of where we're heading with all this, or just get also a written recap as well. And there's some nice visuals there as well. So basically, he goes and they find this. They go into town. They go to the Town Master Hall and they see who is Vo. Okay, now who's Vo, right? Well, Vo is a Waterdeep mercenary, and he's part of a crew, 4 Waterdeep mercenaries. They have come to Phandalin to steal the payment that is being received from Waterdeep for 3 months of wood that has been shipped down to Waterdeep from the Woodcutters Guild, right? The Woodcutters, Demeth's crew, right? So there's 30,000 gold pieces in treasure chests in this heavily, this heavy covered wagon, right? And of course, one of the human woodcutters is there, and he's bringing the pay back. Now, this pay has gone all the way from Waterdeep, all the way back to Phandalin, and now this Waterdeep mercenary crew is attacking is about to attempt to steal this gold. And actually, they're not going to attack. Their idea is to steal, but their scout has been found, and Vo is their scout. Now these four Waterdeep mercenaries are Dastin. He's an elf, and then Vo, Olsenai, and Gamalka. Right, and so at this point, immediately Demeth runs up, Woodcutter Ort runs up, and these two unnamed woodcutters run up on Vo, and Demeth runs in and it's like, hey, we see you watching this. You need to disappear immediately, right? Now, Vo is there, visible at the Townmaster's Hall, right? But what Woodcutter Demeth doesn't understand is that what Woodcutter Demeth does not understand is that Dastin, Gamalga, and Olsenai are all like hidden around other buildings and are close, right? Because their idea was to surreptitiously rob the gold out of the covered wagon. They don't want to cause a combat, right? So at this point, Woodcutter leader Demeth like physically grabs him by the scruff and is like, you need to get lost, because your plan of scouting our treasure that's coming back is done. You need to get going, right? And immediately at that point, we definitely go into combat rounds, and the empath assassin is right on the cusp of a distinct combat, right? And combat is about to ensue. This will be our first combat that will be running in Crown and Skull, and you'll get to hear about that in my next video. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion on the coolest parts of Session 2 of Arbor Adventures. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion on Forgotten Realms, Crown and Skull, Dungeons and Dragons, and woodcutters beefing with dwarven miners. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.